the recording started. Hi, my name is Ray Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Arch Talk 101. And we have Brandon on the line with us today, and we're going to talk to him about archery and see what's going on in his world and just have a whole lot of fun talking archery. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Hey, how are you?
How about if you introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you?
Um, I First of all, introduction, I suppose, would be nice. Brandon Gray out of McAllister, Oklahoma. Um, I've been shooting since about 12, and it's a lot of fun. I've cycled through a lot of different things, so it's and I've found joy in most of them in the archery world. So just might as well keep going at this point.
So, what are you shooting now?
Um, well, I'm kind of in between. Um, I competed in barebow last year, barebow recurve, and this year I'm switching to do compound. We'll see if I can do 30-yard pin or 40 open. I'd like to do 40 open because of the judging. That's the first judging class we have in ASA, and even if I don't do good in it, I think it's worth my effort, and I think it'll give me confidence in the woods later on. So I think
Well,
that's where I'm going to swing at.
I like doing the 3Ds for the judging aspect
Yeah.
because, you don't have a known yardage when you're hunting. Now you
Right.
can kind of by using a rangefinder or marking it off or something, I know that okay, this tree is 20 yards, this is 30 yards, and you're just kind of guessing at where they're at, and when they come in complete different place you haven't done, well, you got to figure out how to judge yardage to it, and that's the challenge. And there's a lot of things that you can do, on a normal sized deer, on my hunting bow. If I can get all five of my pins on a deer, I better be using my 20-yard pin you know, if I can't get but two pins on it, yeah, don't shoot because it's too far out, for me to shoot. Um, it all
Yeah.
depends on how well you see, and I can shoot them longer yardages. Now I can't see them, so I can't shoot them very well at the longer ones. So, but I've
Right.
always tried to set up for 20-yard shots, and you know, that's a good range because you're far enough away, you have a nice shot, and you're far enough away that they don't pick you out so easy. But yeah, my first year was 40, and I think I've shot one at 20, and the rest of them on closer than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I typically 25 and in. Here where I'm at, it's pretty thick. So 25 yards till late season is a pretty good shot anyways, just for getting through coverage. I mean, it's a lot of little stuff. I Our property butts up against core property, so you can't maintain or do anything to that. And it gets crazy down there. You
Yeah.
10, 15 yard shot a lot of times.
Well, makes it a little nicer for you, especially using traditional equipment because you don't
Yeah.
normally take those longer shots with that anyway.
No, no, 20 yards is my max. And for most people, and that's after I competed a full year with barebow recurve, and still 20, 25 yards is a max I'd shoot on a whitetail. On an elk or something like that, it's a different story. It's a lot bigger, but um, that's just my personal preference on it. 25 yards is still kind of pushing it. But so I went out to McAllister for their they have a traditional only hunt out here at the McAllister ammunition plant. And I had a good buck between 30 and 35 yards, but I don't like tracking them, and I sure don't like wounding them. So I'd rather just look at him and get a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes those are memorable. So you're watching them with the camera, and they do some weird stuff, and you get it on camera, and it makes
Yeah.
for cool videos.
Yeah. They're all the animals' behavior is pretty fun to watch if you can be still long enough to do it. The woods really come alive when you're able to sit still long enough.
Yeah, I remember times when one time when I was out in the tree stand, and the rabbits and squirrels were scurrying around, the birds were chirping, and all kinds of activity, and all of a sudden it just So it's like nighttime, shut off, go to bed, go to
Yeah.
sleep. Squirrels weren't moving, the birds weren't making any noises, nothing. It just like completely silent, like there was he was the only one in the whole forest. There was no other animals around because they weren't making any noise.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's peaceful when you get out there. Um, I've been trying to get this teenager to go, and he's kind of iffy on it, but I think once he figures it out, he'll like it and get away from
Yeah,
all this noise.
yeah, get out there and no cell phones, no radios,
The cell phone's the
no.
hard one.
Yeah. Well, last thing you want is that cell phone to be going off into the forest because any animals around are not going to be around. And the old idea is to, to see the deer and hopefully get a shot at them and bring
Yeah.
home some food.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So, have you picked out your compound bow yet? Or are you still looking? Or
Yeah, it's on the way. There's a couple of tournaments. It's gonna cut it real close, but I'm hoping it'll be here around the 21st or so of this month. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Elite Victra.
yeah, they make some good bows. Most of the new manufacturers nowadays, the quality is there. You're not going to find any of them that have bad quality equipment. You may run into one here and there that is kind of subpar, but yeah, on general, if you get any of the new bow manufacturers, there's so many. Elite, there's Bowtech, and then there's um, diamond bows and all those like that. But then you still got the main ones like your PSE, your Hoyt, and your Matthews, and I think Darton's still making some. They
Yeah.
make a good bow. The Dartons were back when I had my shop were the tricky ones to do because the timing was setting the timing was kind of a it was an art form in itself. Because as
Yeah.
you change, if you put a twist in the cable, then you got to do something to the cam, and then it back and forth to finally get the timing, and their tracks were skinnier. So I used to make strings when I had, well, I still do, but when I had my store, I'd make strings, and anybody coming in with a dart, and I'd make the normal string and the normal number of strands, and put the serving on it, and it wouldn't fit in the track.
No.
So you throw that away and start over because it's easier to start over than it is to try and do it. It takes longer to
Oh yeah.
undo it to take two strands out than it is to just start over. And when you make them yourself, you can get people in and out really quick. I had a guy come in one called me up like half hour before we close. Says, "Do you have a stringer? Can you make one for his bow?" And I says, "Well, I don't have any. I'd have to make one. Can you bring it by tomorrow?" And he says, "Well, I got a tournament tomorrow." Okay, stop by the shop. And I made one, threw one away. I didn't make the whole thing. I just served the one in. It didn't fit in the track. So I threw it away, started over, and the string was done. And he was leaving the store about 45 minutes after he walked in.
Mm. I
But
wonder
then
how he.
he had to go to the range and shoot to make sure because it was in a club they had a key could get any time,
Yeah.
and he had to go to the club range and start shooting to make sure everything was all set up because the new string isn't going to be the exact same length as the other one, and it's a new string. It's going to act a little bit differently. Now, when I made mine, they didn't have to be stretched after where you'd have to worry about shooting them in, just because of the process of making them. I pre-stretched them before I even made them. So, uh, but that's the advantage of going to a shop when you have somebody that makes strings right there on the spot and in and out and away you go. Now,
Yeah.
most shops don't. You don't have that because either they're backed up enough they have one person to make strings, or they order them in, and then you can't do that. But he knew I made them, so he was able to do that. And I don't know how he
Yeah.
did in tournament. I don't remember if I ever asked him or he told me, but at least he had a string.
Yeah, at least he got to go. I mean, that's it's better than sitting in the sideline.
So, how much have you shot compound bows?
I used to. That's what I started out. So from I don't know, 12 to just here in the last few years, really. I've dabbled with traditional stuff, but never like really dedicated to it. And then, Lancaster and all the stuff with barebow, it got me hooked. So I had to
Yeah,
try it. And it's fun. I really thought I was gonna like indoor more than I do. It's just not my jam. I want to be outside and field 3D, 50 meter. All of that's fun to me.
being outside instead of being inside. It's
Field has been so far my favorite. You get the distances, things vary, and you get to shoot more than once at that target. That's kind of the downside on the ASA stuff. You shoot once and you move on, and for a lot of us in Oklahoma, I mean it's a 2 hour drive to any of the courses basically, but we're trying to fix that. There's a lot of new courses that are supposed to come in this next year or two, so hopefully we'll be hour and a half pretty soon for everybody and really bump the numbers up.
yeah. Or just start one when you're at there. You don't have that hour drive.
Well, that's the plan. Next year, we're going to try to host one here in McAllister if we can get all the details worked out. So,
Yeah, I know there's groups that I've talked to that there was no place around. Nobody had to shoot anywhere close. Who wants to really drive 2, 3 hours to go to a shoot and then then do the shoot? You're going to have to spend in a motel and then come back and then you got to go in the day before because generally they start real early in the morning. And who wants to get up at 3 o'clock to drive to shoot all day long? So, uh, they've started just a small group, get 2 or 3 people together and grow and grow. And next thing you know, they're hosting events and it's right there in their backyard. And that's the nice thing about archery. You can start off with 2 people getting together and shoot. And it's like, oh, you got to play shoot. Oh, okay. And then come shooting smart. It might be just if you have appropriate place in your own backyard.
mhm. Yeah, you got 15, 20 yards. That's all you need.
Yeah. Yes, you
Well, as
you
long as
don't
the neighbor's not too close behind you
well,
there.
yeah,
don't
yeah,
don't
that's
shoot down, people. You get in trouble.
yeah.
My buddy,
some you can't shoot them, they consider it a firearm. And
yep,
other places, as long as your arrow don't leave your property, they don't care.
yeah, yeah. I lived in Broken Arrow for a while, and it, they've got some clubs and stuff, but it's a pretty good drive from where we lived. So my buddy, he'd crawl up his pine tree in the backyard in his saddle and shoot straight down in the yard. And the new neighbor didn't like that, so he got a good talking to from the police.
Oh, well, as long as he's
So
not shooting towards his neighbor's house.
yeah, really, up in the tree shooting straight down, that's the best scenario. I mean, you're not going to hit anything from up there.
Yeah, except the dirt.
So, yeah.
Unless you
Yep.
ricochet off a rock or something, but that generally you just destroy your arrow.
Yeah. Yeah, especially at the carbons, they just kind of explode on you.
Yeah, aluminums kind of do the same thing too. So
Yeah.
normally they don't like hitting hard objects.
No, I've pushed inserts in those aluminum several times. I tried stump shooting with one time. That's not aluminum's not the way to go for that.
No, they'll bend. They'll bend and deform.
Yeah.
Carbon stand up a little bit better, depending on the carbon. But I took one night I was shooting after I worked all day. I worked, I had my own shop, and I'm got my broadhead target out, and I'm shooting, and I completely missed the broadhead target as well as the normal backstop. Stuck a muzzy broadhead into a concrete block.
Eh,
It stuck in the block and cracked the insert and broke the shaft back about an inch or so. And I reached up there and pulled the broadhead out of the block, and it's still in my mix of heads to hunt with.
Yeah.
It
Goodness.
didn't hurt broadhead at all, and
Hmm.
I didn't stick it in a long ways. It just enough that it just stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that arrow took a lot of that energy.
Yeah, and I just cut it down. My son was shooting all kinds of stuff, and he wouldn't shoot a very powerful bow, so I just cut inch or two past the crack, and he shot it, and I was like, okay, that's one of his arrows now.
Yeah,
He would shoot for hours.
I've got a pile over there kind of like that I I'm getting in trouble for. She's trying to throw away all my stuff. I'm like, ah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. They're good for kids that are shooting, your really light bows.
Yeah.
Um, because they're playing in there. They're just out there having fun sending arrows down range.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I was shooting 600 spine for the bear bow last year. And so you can cut them down and they should work for him in a year or two. So if if I can keep them piled up and not get thrown away, I think it'll work.
Yeah. Well, you just may have to get them all fixed up and all fletched so they're a full arrow and not broke and then like, oh, those are good arrows, for the
Yeah.
right kid.
Well, they're piling up enough. I think she's ready to get rid of all of them. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. You'll
It's
have to
just
take them and find a spot and just stick them in a container someplace and stick them up out of the way, and that way they're not seeing them.
well, if she just built me a shop, we wouldn't have to worry about it. I mean,
Yeah, well, how about if you build the shop, right?
yeah, fair enough.
If she built it, she'd take it over. It'd be her private place to go hide away.
What do they call them? She sheds?
Yeah, it should
Well,
be a me shed.
yeah. Archery shack. I'd kind of like to do those where they do the shipping containers and then a big roof that
Oh
connects them.
yeah,
That'd be nice to have targets in one side and then you could have your targets set out in front. So you have a good shade all day to shoot too.
well,
The
they're
the
they're
end
about 40 feet
goal,
long.
yeah. The end goal is to have an archery club here where I can teach. So having those kind of things would be nice.
Yeah, and you could set them up. You could take one, um, two of them in line, which would give you 80 feet, which would give you plenty of room for a 60-foot range, and then still have 20 feet in the back for other stuff. They're not super wide, but they're still plenty wide enough.
Yeah,
Um,
for a couple of shooters probably at least,
yeah.
and then take turns if you needed to.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's
if you
not
didn't have
bad.
anything back there except your target, and then you get those 4-foot square blocks, and then stick like four of them up down, or yeah, four of them too wide and too high, and then that way you have a nice one. And when you shoot them up, you can rotate them and move them up and down and move them around, and now you got plenty. So if you miss, you're not putting holes in the container. Um,
Yeah,
well, if you hit between them, you would, but
and
still,
then and it'll happen for sure.
yeah, somebody has someone back there, but it is steel. Worst case, you just move your targets away and weld the hole.
Yeah.
Get your welder, weld the hole. We got one of those. We're using, more of a shop.
Yeah.
We've got quite a bit of stuff in there, and you just got to get it. It sits on four spots. So all you have to do is get four spots for each of the four corners, level and supporting enough. I just put some landscaping bricks down, and they were big ones, and filled them with concrete. And of course, when they set the back down, they set down, but the front they couldn't get all the way down, so I had to drop it from a couple feet up, and of course it cracked the blocks. But
Yeah.
yeah, and
Boo.
yeah. I had a whole thing where I put the one block where I wanted it and set the next one, put a 4x4 across them, got them leveled. But then I didn't have anything, a 40-foot long pole. So I had to go out, the 16 feet and put another block and level, get that was level, and then go to the next one and finally the last one. So I leveled it off that way. And I put a level, as I got a 6-foot level, I put it going front to back and it's level and side to side, it was level. So
You
I,
worked
I
pretty
got
good.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it nice and level because you don't want it leaning to one side. Um,
No.
and I should have started at the back and worked my way forward because, it's up. We got a couple of ramps to get in there because it was a pretty big step. I had to dig the first ones down and didn't think about that. That was so much drop. It was probably, a foot lower in the back than it was in the front.
Yeah. Yeah. I live on a hill, so everything is on grade. It's such a pain to try to
Yeah,
level anything and keep it level.
yeah. Now they do, if you put them on like, high enough, then water will flow underneath it,
Yeah.
but, if you've got water, it could erode it out too if you're on much of a hill. Uh,
Hmm.
so it's, but, that would make a pretty good thing. And there's no windows in it. So you'd have to put windows in it, or at least, some way to get heat and cool in there so you can use it year round.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the morning, they're nice and cool in there, but as soon as the sun comes out, hit the top of it because it's like blue. It gets hot in there in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah. It's bake you. Sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, I know one of the things that we offer in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group is, we'll critique your form, and if upload a video of your shooting, we'll critique it. I'm an archery instructor as well. There's others in there, and that's
Okay.
one of the things we offer to the group members, is just something that help out the group members. And if you have problems with your bow, just go ahead and upload the question, create the question. And, if you can do a video on your phone and upload it from your phone into the group, that definitely helps, because describing something is okay, but with a video behind it, then it makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
And we can look at them, and I have a video editing software that I use when I create my YouTube videos. And I also have stuff out there on, shooting form and working on bows. My YouTube channel is Learn to Fix It Yourself. And, there's video stuff out there, as well as the podcasts go out there, and all kinds of other stuff. Whatever I'm working on, is, I put up there just something. You never know what people want to see.
Well, and a little bit off of archery topic, there's been so much knowledge kind of lost between the generations that I've kind of picked up on. A lot of dudes my age just don't know a lot of stuff, and the younger ones are even worse. So having some kind of resource to be able to learn those things is nice. I mean, um, it's just the way it is now, but um, having that ability is really helped a lot. Helped save a lot of money because you can't. And this is kind of the mentality that a lot of the younger kids are. Well, just call someone to do it. Can't always afford that. And a lot of times it's something that you can do. You just need to know how. So
Yeah.
so all that is really appreciated for sure.
Yeah. And I'm 70 years old, so I've, grew up. It's like, well, fix it.
Yeah.
Well, not sure how, but I know I need this tool, so I'm gonna buy that tool.
Yeah,
Because I
start
can
there.
buy the tool, have the tool, figure out how to fix it, make it work. Now I still have the tool for the next time.
Yeah.
That's why I got a lot of my tools that way, instead of calling somebody to fix it. It's like, well, I got a flat. Dial up the phone. Well, you don't dial anymore, but you push buttons. And it's like, okay, AAA, I got a flat. Can you come change it? 3 hours later, they show up to change your tire. And they open your trunk, pull out your spare, pull your iron, jack it up, change it, gone. They were there probably 15, 20 minutes, and you had to wait 3 hours just for them to show up to do a 15-minute job
Yeah.
when you had all the tools in your car.
Hmm.
Now that may
Oh,
have, the power impacts that take them off easier than the old four ways or whatever, but
yeah.
I still carry a four way in my car, and
Mhm.
and I got tools in there, and a lot of stuff. It just you know that's why I call my channel Learn to Fix It Yourself.
Yeah.
And
So
sometimes I'm learning how to fix it while I'm doing the recording.
yeah, yeah, learn as you go. Well, if you have a general idea, if you've done something like that similar, then it's easy to kind of skip into it and learn as you
Yeah.
go.
Well, and the
But
more of it you do, the easier it is to figure out what the problem is.
yeah, right. So like changing tires and stuff, I've got to where I keep a floor jack in the back of the truck. That's one thing I picked up from my grandpa, and it's where it's at. I
Yeah,
I'll
I've got a
I'll
small
never
one in
drive
a little.
without one.
I got a little small one in a plastic thing that you just put on there and jack it up, and
Yep,
and keep a little wheel chock in there because you need to chock your wheels,
yep,
so it don't slide, because if you're jacked up, you're on wheels, so it can slide.
Mm.
and you just want to make sure you always. And it's not a big one. Don't need to be a real big one. You
Yeah.
know, in our trucks we have a big rubber one that we can use, but you know, keep tools in the trunk. I've got metric tool sockets or wrenches and sockets and ASA sockets and wrenches and pliers and um, yeah, I always carry extra stuff in there and you know, and there's all kinds of stuff. I even have a round file in my, as I like, I don't know when I use this round file, but I got a round file in there, a
Just in
coarse one
case.
too. You know, you never know, and you know, carry extra fuses and stuff like that because you never know. If fuse blows, you know, you might be stuck. You know, you gotta
Yeah.
change it or something, and you know, it's sometimes it's an easy fix. Um, I know on the car I'm driving a 2004 Toyota, air conditioner's working. Next day, it wouldn't work. Well, it's one of the things: fuse, relay, or the compressor. I don't want to change the compressor, so I checked fuse.
Mhm.
Fuse good. Pulled out the relay. Relay was bad. So put a new relay. It's like a $14 part. Got air conditioning.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
And you didn't have to
there's
wait forever.
no. I have another one that I had a deer with, and I had the fuse, the relay in there, and I took it out. I was doing something. I was checking because we had problems with the car. You'd go to hit it start, and it wouldn't start, and and there's a neutral safety switch, but that didn't seem a problem. So some days you put it in neutral and it'd start, and other times it wouldn't start at all. So I was recovering from another accident, and we had to get that car running. So I took it to one of our neighbors up here as a mechanic, and he actually he couldn't figure out exactly what it was. It's because it doesn't do it all the time. And he actually wired in one straight to the starter, so I can just hit this button and it'll turn the starter over. You know, bypass that neutral safety switch, but don't hit it
Yeah.
while you're driving because it'll engage the starter.
Yeah.
So since we did that, I think twice I've had to use that button. And one time I used it just it didn't do it. I just went and hit it. But last time I put it neutral and it starts, and then it's weird because sometimes you drive and you stop for a few minutes and then it doesn't want to work. It's like
Huh.
so I had the relay out for the air conditioner on this one and forgot about it. I put it in a box in the house and with a couple other things in there. It's like, oh man. So I called up, I just bought a new one. And then I realized like, oh man, I had the one right there that was working because the other one was working. But it was like a $12 part. You know, and learning to fix it yourself. You know, I'm going through being an electrical engineer. You know, it's like, okay, I want to be able to test this. So I had to get the pin out so I could test it. So I looked it out and it's like, oh, okay, here's the contact. So I made some jumper cables and yep, sure enough, relay's not working. Relay went out. And, you know, if I'd have took it to a mechanic, it could have been easily $300
Oh yeah.
for them to troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on. And I fixed it for $12 or
Yeah.
yeah, 12, $13.
Which I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but a lot of them here, like if you go in to get them to read the error code or something, they'll charge you $50 up front. And I understand. I mean, they bought the machine, they've got time involved, but they'll charge you $50 up front to even look at it, and then you know if if you end up getting it repaired there, that just goes to the price. But so I mean, that $50 right off the bat to even diagnose it.
Yeah. And you know, there's the machines you can get some inexpensive ones for pretty cheap. Um, now the cars run on what they call a CAN bus, and Bosch developed it. And I have a Bosch code reader that'll do all kinds of different cars. But when we bought it, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, it was like a $300 meter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we've got some other ones that, you know, I think you can probably spend $50 or $100 and get one that reads the codes.
Yeah.
And Uh, some of them will be a little better at detecting some of the other codes that are a little more obscure. Um, but you know, you get the code. As you just look at, okay, what is the P302 code? It says, okay, this is what the code is, and then you can narrow it down and find them. But you know, there I don't think it probably threw a code because of the relay, but you know, that's when dealing in air conditioning, it's a couple of things there. But you got to make
Yeah.
sure you have the right gauges. to fill it.
Yeah, I'm not good with vehicles and stuff. I'll admit that I stumble my way through it sometimes, but I usually have to. I have a cousin that's a mechanic, and I'll call him. I've broke too many things that shouldn't. I shouldn't have even been in that area. So I'm trying to learn.
Well, sometimes that's what it takes. You learn. If you break something or make a mistake and it costs you more, it's like, well, you just paid for some education. Don't
Yeah,
do that.
yeah. It can be expensive education, though.
Yeah, I've had some of those.
Yeah,
Not as much in cars, but in other things I've done. It's like, yeah, okay, well, this was an expensive education and didn't get out of it what you expect to get out of it. And
right. Yeah, yeah. That's part of life. It's just the way it is. So
well, even at that, to get back on archery, um, you can learn archery on your own.
yeah,
Are you going to be really good at it? No, you might be, but how long you want to spend to get there? A good coach is going to get you there really quick.
yeah,
And I've seen that. I've being a coach since '95, I've coached a lot of people, and you know,
yeah,
I tell this on a lot of podcasts because it just kind of makes a point of you need to get in and get to somebody that knows what's going on. It's going to save you so much time, as long as you're open and coachable,
yeah.
willing to take criticism of something that you're not doing right and understand I'm not doing it right. What ideas do you have for me to change it? And then try those changes. If they don't work for you, a good coach will say, okay, well, let's try this instead.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah,
and that's what I do is I take, you know, spending 20 years in martial arts and then learning, the back tension release, that technique. I've combined them into what works best for me. And if I'm going to teach you how to shoot a compound bow, I'm going to teach you the exact way that I do it. And then we're going to see if it works for you. If it doesn't, we're going to modify it.
right.
And I just not just teach you, okay, do this, do this. I'm going to say, do this, and this is why we want you to do it that way. Because
Right.
if you don't know the why, the how doesn't matter, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. And there's so many little nuances in it that so that's one reason why before I really want to start coaching, I want to be able to do the three main ones, bare bow, Olympic recurve, and compound. I'm going to dedicate a year to competing in each three of them. And that way I know at least I can grasp a little bit of the nuances between them to help people. Um, yeah, I go to a coach in Fort Gibson for barebow, and we had to work through a few things that it felt good to me, but it didn't work right. So you just gotta
Yeah.
gotta get it where it needs to be, and if finding something that's comfortable and repeatable is kind of the first step, and then you can fine tune it in from there to get it exactly where it needs to be, and that's where coaches come in handy. Being able to video yourself and be open and critical with yourself about what you are doing wrong. I mean, it's easy to look and be like, well, it felt okay and it hit okay. Well, but did you do it right? If and for hunting and competition, I think it's a little different. Um, because in competition we're shooting lots of arrows versus hunting we're making that one good shot. And yes, everybody needs to practice, but the form to hunt with and the form on the line is different. I see a lot of people like on in the comment sections on these ASA videos and stuff talking about how they draw. Well, they're not just straight at the target drawing. They're coming up to draw, not sky drawing, but using the leverage to draw. And that's the difference. Yeah, you don't want to do that in the woods, but you're also not shooting 60 arrows that day or more.
Yeah. Well, and And my thoughts on that is raising the arm and bringing it down. How strong are you at pushing your arm down? Because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're not very strong pushing down because they can take, put your arm up. I'll use just my hand lightly do it and push down, and you can't bring it down. Now go the other way where your arm is bent and pushing out. Oh yeah, you're going to push me over because you got the strength in there. And I kind of not really bring it up and down, but what I do is I point at the target and I lean towards the target a little bit, which basically brings my arm up a little bit. The reason I do that is I'm pushing towards the target as I'm doing it, you stand up, standing up
Mhm.
straight. Because what happens if you do that, pull back, end up you leaning back.
Yeah.
So that's probably what they bring the arm up and come down because then they don't bend back. So if you draw up like this, you still have a tendency to lean back. And the further up you bring it, the more you do that, and the more work you have to do to bring that arm down. Now,
Mhm.
I'm saying it's easier to drop the arm down as you draw now than rising it up because I never go down and try and bring up just because
Yeah.
drawing back it puts weird. So I just basically there it's a slight lean forward. So as I draw, I'm standing up straight. And so basically, when I'm down, my arm is up slight, not much, but because I'm doing that pointing to the target. Now the whole time I'm always pointing to the target. And I had one time I had a release that the head broke off on the release.
Oh,
Now, guess what the name of the release was?
I
Fail
don't know.
safe.
Oh,
And I'm doing that. I'm about half draw, and the head got broke off, and I found it 30 yards downrange. It was indoors, and just that process, my arm it jumped up, and I sent the arrow through the ductwork on the ceiling.
yeah. Goodness. I've
So
I've seen a
there's
few
there's
of
a
those.
half-inch diameter hole in the ductwork in there because the head broke off of it because it was a bad design
Yeah.
and it would not handle 70 pounds. And I had two of them, but a machinist friend of mine made a new piece. What they did is it got down thinner where it went into the release, the part the strap was fastened to, and it's just so thin that aluminum would not handle that kind of pressure. And so he made another one that's a little bit thicker. But they're in my one bag, but in a box, but I'll never use that, and I'll never let anybody. That one he made
What?
a new piece for it probably work all right, but it was just not a very good. And it's weird. Failsafe was the name of the brand of release.
Yeah.
It
I
failed.
actually I actually have one of those with the pinky trigger.
Oh yeah, this is regular caliper one,
Yeah.
and yeah, not very good. That's why buy a good quality release.
Oh
True
yeah.
Ball makes some good ones. Carter, Scott, Stanislavski. Those are probably your top name ones as far as quality releases.
Mhm.
Those four names. Um, True Fire makes some if you get off their low end ones. They make some okay ones, but that I have a True Fire that I got when I had my store as kind of a promo test to see if I like their releases. I had a Carter, and it wasn't this chocolate addiction, but I got this one here. He sent to me. It's got jaws on it, and you have to pull that trigger a long ways to get that to move. And it was half the price of a Carter.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it wasn't worth half the price. It better to spend the more money because it had so much movement. And that's what you want in a release. You want zero movement of that trigger. Because as soon as it moves, you think about the trigger. Because if it's
Hmm.
moving, what are you thinking about? The trigger. Now you're thinking about the trigger. What are you not doing? You're not aiming. What are you going to hit? Don't know.
Who
Because you're
knows?
not aiming anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of travel that's no good. I've never I'll punch a thumb button every time. I don't really like index ones either because I'll come up and that little bit of movement takes my head away from what I should be doing. And I don't know. I've just never got used to them. So I've ordered a couple of back tension ones, and what I'm gonna experiment. I'll send you a message and let you know how many times I hit myself. The only time I've tried one, I got myself pretty good. So,
Well,
but it's time. I'm gonna learn it.
I have shot a hinge type, but you got to really, when you draw back, all your pressure's on the index finger
Mhm.
because anything back is going to make it fire. So you got to really put all that pressure forward as you're drawing back, and then you're going to aim, get everything all ready, so you're on target. Now you're going to start putting pressure on the other ones, and now then once you get pressure on or it's even, now as you start pulling, that hand turns back and that makes them go off. Now, if you have a handheld that has the knurled knob on it, take it off.
Yeah.
It's now in this one I had to have it on there because this trigger, only goes to, right here, so you couldn't use it. Now here's my carder, and notice I don't have it on there. So as I cock it, you can see I'm pushing really hard to get that to go off. And the advantage of that is bury it into your hand. Now I put this in that seam right there, bottom of my thumb. I can wrap this around. I'm putting a lot of pressure on this. I'm really getting a lot of pressure right here, but it's not going off. And now as you go in here, let's see if I can pull. I have some Libby strings I was making for samples of color combinations.
Yeah.
I gotta twist this up so I can get my release on here. There we go. So now, as I'm pulling apart, with my back muscles. I have this buried in here and it's not going anywhere. But as soon as I start pulling with my back muscles, it goes off. I didn't move my thumb. So if you watch,
So are you burying it down into the crease of your uh, right in
no,
here?
no, clear back here. I don't
Oh,
know if you
even
can see that.
further.
Clear back here. Clear back here. Not here because now you have a tendency to push with your thumb and,
Hmm.
and not and not fire it. So now you're actually using your thumb, which has less dexterity than your index finger, to fire the bow. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's the reason why I liked that pinky release for a while because this thing is
yeah, you're pulling with your little finger, which
yeah,
you
and
can
I
do
had
that
to
with this
really
too.
think about it.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to think about it. So now it's buried into my hand completely up here. I
Right.
don't know if you can see where it's buried. It's buried up right there at my hand. So
Okay.
you've got your tip of your thumb, then the first joint, the second joint. I'm into the
Hmm.
second joint. And now I can squeeze this as hard as I want this way, and it will not fire because I got to pull back on the trigger. Now, this is a very hard spring. I put the hardest spring in it they make. Now, as I'm pulling, um, I'm hanging on really tight and I'm pulling really, really hard. And now I put my thumb in here. I can put pressure, all the pressure I want on it. Now, as soon as I start going back, now watch this thumb here. Does not move. The thumb never
Okay.
moved.
Yeah.
It's the process of going back puts pressure on this part of the trigger, and that will make it fire.
Okay. I've ordered the Fusion from Scott. It's got the strap and everything that's supposed to help kind of lead you
Yeah.
into.
And if you
But if
watch what
that
this
doesn't
hand
work, I
does,
might see if I can borrow one of these.
yeah. So now as I'm doing that, you can see I'm put pressure on here. So I have it loose, but I got pressure on here. And now as I'm pulling back, my hand rotates back as I'm squeezing my back muscles together.
Hmm.
And that will make it fire. And there's no thinking because all you're doing is squeezing those big back muscles.
Yeah, just
Now,
squeeze them.
if I get, let me see, hook this one on. This is my Scott release that I've had for, oh, geez, probably 30 years now. And I bought it used from a guy that used to rep for Scout Archery. Try and get this hooked on. There we go. Now, this is a wrist strap, not a hand strap. So where you wear your watch is where you put this. There's bones right here. You
Hmm.
don't want it on the hand side because now to see what difference is, they can have like this. Now pull. your hands apart by grabbing these fingers, pull them apart. And where do you feel it? You feel it here in the wrist. Now grab here and pull. Where do you feel it? In the back muscles. So you want to pull from here, not from the hand.
Okay.
And now if you notice how short this release is,
Mm-hmm.
here's where my trigger is. So when I draw back, I'm going to put this back here. Now, the reason I like the hook is because I can find my string, I can find my loop, and I can hook it on. See if I can hold this.
Instead of having to try to aim those jaws.
Right, right. That's why I don't like the jaws. Now, when I get ready to fire, I'm going to put this finger over here. You can see the 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 tip, the first knuckle, the second knuckle, and not one by your hand. Now it's just going to wrap around here. Now you see a lot of people they'll pull the trigger like that,
Yeah.
and you don't want to do that because now you're pulling the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have this hooked on here, and now with the back tension release, I'm going to pull. I just keep pulling with my back muscles. You got to put a slight pressure on it is all you've got to do.
Okay.
So trying to get some of these strings have a few more strands in them and don't hook on because they're only using a loop. So now from here, I've got this right here. It won't go off until you put pressure on it. A little, slight little pressure on it. Now don't grip the release. Just let your hand hang down. Just let it loose. Wrap this around here. Little pressure on it. And now as you pull, it'll pull that trigger. You want the travel on your trigger set to be almost nothing. So the travel on this is just a little bit of travel and it goes off. Now,
Okay.
if you have jaws like these, now this is also a Scott, but if you have jaws like these, in order to hook them up, you have to look down at your release and you talk to any archer that's looked down from their bow and the deer's looking at them. So you have to pull the trigger,
Yeah.
put this on, close the jaws, and do that while you're not looking at the string. And now you can still shoot it the same way. I don't have it strapped on. I got to kind of hold it now. But you're still going to have the same part of your finger in there, and you're still going to pull to the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of little lesson on how to shoot a different type releases. And I have a video on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix Yourself, on archery form, and I go through a little more, well, not much more detail, but a little closer view because the camera's actually showing the release,
Right.
and so you can always look that up and look at that. But that's kind of uh, one thing on the releases. That's just one part of the whole draw technique.
Yeah.
Then you have how do you grip your bow? Well, you don't grip the bow. You don't hang on to the bow. Once you start your draw process, what I do is, I actually show this on one of the videos so you can look it up a little bit better because I really don't, well, in fact, I don't even have a bow up here right now. So, but I open my hand and I've got say this is the riser. I'm going to open my hand up and then get where I can see it in the camera. And then I'm going to let my hand go down. And now then I'm just going to relax. I don't hang on to it. And you can see where it goes through my hand.
Mm-hmm.
It goes down through from here, basically follow the lifeline. So it goes from this point right here in this little webbing down to the spot between your little finger and your thumb.
Right.
And that's you're going to push with. You don't hang on to it. And that hand should jump straight to your target.
Yeah.
Now we
Yep.
get a little more detail in that in the last podcast. Um, Anybody that knows martial arts, have you had any martial arts experience?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what a heel palm strike is?
Well, I did jujitsu, so
Okay, so a heel palm strike. This is the striking part right there.
the
That's
boss
your
fruit and
pushing.
slap.
Yeah.
Or no.
So
Sorry,
that's
I
that's the
cut
part
you
you're going
off.
to push on it, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff on that as well.
Okay.
But we can go over that a little bit more details sometime too. But um,
Sure.
that's kind of the gist behind it, and don't hang on to your bow. Because if you grip the bow, can you consistently grip the bow? Can you curl your fingers around? Some people say, well, get your hand turned, curl your fingers and put them inside a bow. Well, now only you put tension in your hand because your hand's not relaxed anymore. And now you're putting pressure on the side of the bow, which, depending on all kinds of different factors, are you putting the same pressure on the bow sideways every time?
Mm-hmm.
No. Or you wrap them around and, well, I'm putting my fingers on the tip of the bow. Well, you got tension in your hand. You want zero tension in your hand. So basically the way your hand needs to be, drop it down at your side, relax it, don't do anything with it, and then just bring it up, bend your wrist. That's the way you're going to hold it. So you're going to bring your hand up, bend your wrist. That's it. And I use sling, or some will use the little loop that goes around your index finger and your thumb because they don't
Mm-hmm.
want the whole sling. So some will use that, and that's okay because you're not hanging onto the bow.
Right. That's
You
what I
want no
use for
tension
the
on the bow.
barebow.
Yeah, I see a lot of them on bare bows using those, just because it gets the sling off there, and especially in the summertime when that's hot or it's scratchy on your hand, or your wrist because sometimes they're made out of braided material or whatever, webbing, and it's
Right.
rough on there. Mine has a little fleece on it, so it's a little bit nicer on my wrist. But I can see, if you don't like that on there, use one of those thumb slings, and just don't hang on to it. Now the older bows, before they start getting parallel limbs and beyond parallel limbs, because they were up pretty much straight up and down. So when you drew them back and shot, both the upper limb and lower limb are sending force forward, which made that bow jump out of your hand. So you
Right.
couldn't use an open hand and not hang on to it unless you had a sling. And that's, my hunting bow and the one I use for target, they're 2001 and 2003 bows. And they weren't the new parallel design, so I can still press on my old Apple press, because they're long enough I can do that. And all that force was going forward, so it would actually jump out of your hand and hit your fingers. And that's what I looked for is, if it jumped forward and hit my fingers, I knew I wasn't gripping it. And that's why I had to sling because it'd shoot and then it just kind of hang down on your hand. Now, the new parallel design ones, the forces are going up and down. So they don't jump forward like the older ones did. And so those you could probably shoot without it. But if you're shooting in a tree stand, which way are you pointing?
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
If you don't hold on to them and expect just sit on your hand, it's going to sit on your hand, but gravity's going to make it fall and hit the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd think
So
going down for the arrow you dropped is bad. Going down for
yeah,
your bow's worse.
yeah, because you don't know if it's even shootable after that because it's
Right.
fell from 10, 15, 20 feet,
Yep.
at least it's probably hit on the cam at one
Mm.
point or another, or it hit on your sights. The rest is probably pretty much safe, but your sights might have got knocked off. You
Yeah.
might have hit the cam and bent a cam, and not a, yeah, you could have bent the cam or messed up the track and got a sharp point. So as you draw back, it slices your string, and you shoot, a few times, and next thing you know, your string's breaking and your bow's blowing up in your hand because your string broke. Uh,
Yeah. Now that's an expensive mistake. That's an
yeah,
expensive lesson right there.
yeah. I used to have people come in, and the strings would be off the cam, and there's two things that's going to cause that. One, gripping your bow when you draw back. When you grip your bow, why don't you just lightly hold it. Now grip it like a death grip in it. That bow turns. Now your strings are not lined up with those cams anymore. You go to let down with that death grip on there, and they slide right off the cams.
Yep.
Not as catastrophic as dry firing them. The other thing is a dry fire,
Yeah.
and I would get them come in. Axles are bent. This is a hardened stainless steel axle. How do you bend a hardened stainless steel axle when you have aluminum cams? So you cannot drop that bow hard enough on those aluminum cams and not destroy the cam, and you're
Yeah.
still not going to bend the axle. It most likely it was dry fired. And then they come in and I look at it. It's like, you dry fire it? No, I didn't dry fire it.
Hmm.
I'm thinking, yes, you did, but I don't say it that way. I was like, well, if you didn't dry fire it, I'm just going to put it back on. The limbs could be cracked and you could draw back and it could blow up at full draw and the bow's going to come back at you. Yeah, I dry fired it.
Yeah, now they
Now,
want to be
as this,
super.
if you dry fired it, I'm going to go through more checks. I'm going to take the cotton balls and, alcohol and stuff like that and, rub the
Mhm.
cotton ball on it. And if it catches, then I know there's a little burr there, and alcohol on it to see, if there's any cracks will show up, and then I can check, say, okay, you have a defect in your limb. We need to get new limbs in for it.
Yeah. Yeah, you being caught doing something silly is not worth getting hurt over.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it happens.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've done
uh,
it once. And then in some of these people's defense, my uncle, he derailed my bow, but he didn't dry fire it. He drew it back with his fingers and then he did this as he's letting it down
yep.
the day before season. It was
Oh,
in the shop and they were backed up as in the shop for 2 weeks. I was salty over that.
yeah. And that's the problem drawing back with fingers because you draw back and you don't always keep it straight like this. You always turn it. Even people shooting them that way will turn a little bit.
Yeah.
But on traditional equipment, ain't a big deal. If you got a little twist in that string, but on compounds, them wheels, there's a track and there's a very fine point between being in the track and going out of the track.
Right.
And I've seen much more dry fires when they let somebody else shoot their bow or draw it back. Just
Yep.
like you said, your dad drew it back with fingers, twisted as he let down, or you twist if you do it with your fingers, it's like, well, I won't let go. You got my fingers.
No, he
I've seen
didn't.
them, I I've seen them slip out of fingers,
Yeah.
especially when it's a little too much weight for them. I
Yeah.
long time ago, I seen this video. Some of these guys think they can do more than what they have the ability to do. Like grab somebody's bow that's 70 pound and most they could probably draw is a 50. And they're struggling and struggling. I watched this video. I laughed at that one so hard on that one. He finally get it, struggling, finally got it back, and the bow come back at him because he couldn't hold on to it in his hand.
Oh,
So this hand's holding the string at his face, and it slipped out of his hand, and the bow come back at him and hit him.
yeah.
And like,
I
you
think
got
I've
what you
seen that
deserve.
one. Yeah.
You
I've
got
seen
what you
some
deserve.
kids do that too, where they're trying to push and then
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's always funny when you have somebody that's small person and a football player comes up, can't drop back, and this little guy's drawing a 70-pound bow, and he's not very big, and then this big football player struggling,
Yep.
can't get it to move.
Yeah. Yeah. In high school, I ended up the second bow I ever had was a Martin Pantera's purple,
Yeah,
and my grandpa traded a guitar for it. He had a music store, and so it went up to 70 or 75, I think, and that's all I did in high school. I'd get out of baseball practice and I would shoot till dark or I couldn't stand it anymore. And I had a buddy come over and he's poking fun at me at my purple bow, and I said, "Here you go, try it." That he didn't want it after that. It was 65 or so, but I mean we were teenagers, but it's all in form and practice. And if you don't have it, you don't have it till you get it.
well, your archery muscles are used for basically nothing except archery.
Yeah.
How often do you push and pull off sideways
Yeah.
using those back muscles?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody does except an archer.
Yeah.
Football players, they never practice that because you're never pushing for the side. You're never pushing off to the side. You might, running, you might be a stiff arm, but that's more forward than it is back because you're not going to stiff arm off to the side because they're off to the side of you. Of
Yeah.
course, they're coming sideways on you, but,
Right.
that's just something that I don't know of any sport. Now, there may be some, if you know of a sport, make a comment. that uses those back muscles like that.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be like that, but I wonder, swimming, would that use some of
Well,
those?
assuming if you're doing forwards, you're going to come like this. Um, I you're not going
The
in and out.
opposites.
Yeah,
Right.
you're not going in and out.
Right. That's fair.
So yeah, I don't know of anybody. So if anybody listening knows of any sport that uses those back muscles, like squeezing shoulder blades together, let me know. Maybe some of the exercises, well, if you're down and pulling up, it's kind of using them, but not quite the same motion unless pulling off the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Archery and slingshots about the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah, slingshot because you're doing the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like drawing.
Yeah, when it's nasty weather, that's usually what I'm doing. I'll hang a sheet up and just do that. At least it's something I can do.
Yeah, you ever get some little exercise bands and go through that. And I've got
Hmm.
some that they gave me when I was recovering from heart surgery to build some strength. And I started with I couldn't even do the lightest one, and then finally build up to that. And I can struggle. I can do all three bands, but I it's not quite ready to do much on all three bands
Right.
because that's not quite, but close to shooting a regular recurve or a
Yeah.
compound,
Well,
and
those
I'm not ready
bands
for
are
that.
just super handy to have for archers. We take them to warm up before tournaments.
Yeah,
Uh, they're they're handy.
yeah. There's three different colors: a yellow, a green, and a purple, I think. And I'm not sure, what the numbers are, the weight on them is, but I had some here someplace. I forget where they went, but
They're in a
they're
safe
they're here.
place.
They're hiding behind the monitor.
Yeah.
I got two sets of them, so I had one out in the living room where I use them out there, and but yeah, those are good because you can practice. Like what I'll do is I'll draw back, breathe in, exhale, go back to my anchor point, not exhale completely, but leave a little bit, and then exhale as I go through the rest of the follow through. So breathe in, let it out, and then hold, and then finish it up. Kind of get a process for doing that. And there's a whole lot you can do and just in your process of what you do and figure out what works for you, and then go with do that every time, whether you're in a tree stand, you're at the archery range, in a tournament practicing, do the same thing every time. Clear down to your breathing. And me, I hook my release up to my bow, open my hand, so I'm not pinching anything. Open it up, and then open it all the way up, and then relax it down, and then and then because I got pressure on it, so I can do that, and then I bring my bow up and go through my draw process. And I discovered I think puts on your belt has a loop you can put your lower cam in. For the longest time, I was just there holding it, and it just, once I was like, oh man. So I put those on my 3D rig. I have it on my safety harness. So I put that lower cam in it, and that's how I hold my bow. I don't have to hold it. I just got to balance it in there, and it comes out real easy to draw. I'm all set and ready to go, and so I even use it when I'm practicing. I'll
Yeah.
put it in there before I start my draw process. I'll get ready. I pull my arrows and quiver. So I'll put it in there and I'll draw it out and hook an arrow in. And then I'll come up and draw and shoot. When I'm done, I put it back in there to hold it and then get my arrow out and then go through my process again. And next time, same thing every time. So it ends up being muscle memory.
Yeah.
And the
Um,
same thing, you go through your shot process. Go through, aim at your target, not your pins. Aim at your target, draw back, anchor point, do the same thing every time. And that shot should go up about 3 seconds. Is if your shot's not off in 3 seconds, let down, start over. Because what's going to happen is if you wait longer than three, you maybe go 5, but 3 seconds generally. If you go longer than that, you're going to start punching the trigger.
yeah. My eyes will start blurring if I'm trying to hold too long. Like I'll have to. take a breath, and that changes everything. So yeah,
Yeah,
just start over. I've
getting used to
I've
same
tried
thing.
to force a few barebow shots, and let down is always better than chasing arrows.
Yeah.
But
It
it's
definitely
hard once
is.
you're there to do it. But
Yeah.
that's a skill you got to learn with it too.
Well, and some of your really hard cams, like my hunting bow is a 2001 PSE Carrera, and
Hmm.
2001 it was rated at 320 feet per second. That's a fast bow, even today's standards. Now, I
Hmm.
don't get anywhere near out of that because you got to shoot a 350 grain arrow, 70 pounds, one knock point,
Right.
and 30-inch draw length. That's how it's measured. So they're all the same. And I get, I think last time I put the chrono on it, it was like 280, something like that. But I have 29 and a half draw length, of course, shooting 70 pounds. I have a loop on there, no knock point because you don't need them if you have a loop, unless you're trying to shoot two arrows. So I have the loop. I have string silencers, those little string leeches, one at
Hmm.
the top and bottom of my string, and one on each of my cams. So I have like four of those on there, and I'm shooting. My hunting setup is about a 420 grain arrow. Now, my one I shoot out of the target bow, the other bow, is about 370 grains.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I'm shooting that heavy of a hunting arrow is because PSE had what they called the hunter shaft at one time, 0.7 thousand straightness. And I ordered some in just to see how they were. And I set them up. And the difference is I can hold my broadheads in the X ring if I shoot a Comp Pro, which is 1,000ths. With those, I can hold them in the white ring on a 5 spot. That's the difference between 1 and 7 thousandths. 1 inch group as opposed to a 3 inch group.
At
That's the
20.
difference between them. And then one I wanted to get new ones, I put weight tubes in it to get the weight up the same because I didn't want to change all my pins. Yeah, I didn't want to change all my pins because I have to set them all up and I had a program, I think it was called Archer's Advantage, where you could set it up, you could print out a sight tape, and you'd take the measurement between your peep and your arrow at full draw, between your peep and your pins at full draw, and the weight of your arrows, and whether you're using vanes or flat or feathers, because feathers are lighter but more drag. So they'll maintain speed a little faster, or they start off faster, but they slow down. Vanes
Yeah.
start off a little slower and they keep their speed a little bit longer because there's less drag. And so they want to know all that. And then you chrono it, get the speed of the arrow, and it'll print out your sight tape. And it's like, okay, so then you'd set up, okay, put your 20-yard pin, put the bow down over there. Here's my 20-yard pin. It's all set 30, 40, 50, 60. And I printed it out, set them up that way. And you adjust your 20-yard pin first, and then you adjust all the other ones. And it was on 60 yards. My pin was on. And I don't have that program anymore because that
Yeah.
was 20 some years ago, and I don't think it'd run on the new Windows.
No,
If
probably
I
not.
if I could find it, well, I don't know if I can even load it because it's not on a, uh CD card or USB card. I think it's on probably a 3.5 inch floppy.
Oh goodness. Good luck finding something to run that.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to get up one of my old computers that have one of those and then upload it to USB or something. Well, because they didn't have USB ports on those, I'd have to hook up extra drive, an external drive, and put it on there, and then yeah, I could get it off, but um,
I think they make a little floppy drive you can plug into a
yeah, they
USB.
do. Yeah,
But I know they've got all kinds of programs and stuff. I'm sure they've got a newer one by now that
yeah,
I'd even be able to find one for free somewhere. I don't know.
yeah. But it worked pretty good. And the other thing it also told me is, okay, what pin did I have to use if I'm shooting at 5 feet?
Yeah.
Have you ever shot at 5 feet with pins?
No. I've been
You're going to
researching
miss.
a
If you use your
lot.
pins, you're going to miss.
Yeah,
And you're going to miss really low.
yeah. One of them I saw the other day. Of course, it's not a pin; it's an adjustable, and he set it all the way down to 60 and shot one that close.
Yeah.
I want
On on my tape, it said at 5 feet, use 70, shoot it for 70 yards. On
to
my setup, that was 70 yards, what my tape said. And I was on a platform. There was a gator 5 feet from the platform. I
yeah,
got it. I nailed it right where we're supposed to because it's 70 yards. Now, of course, it was tough to shoot because I drew back standing up and, no safety harnesses because you're on a platform. I'm leaning over that platform, leaning. I'm down probably, past 45 degrees, depending on the rail on the platform to hold me up. And I was on there and I went through and I drew back and I shot and I nailed it right where it's supposed to be. Of course, then I had struggled getting standing back up because I'm leaning over so far. But
yeah,
now the reason why you do that for those like 70, why would you shoot 70 at 5 feet? Okay, where's your pins? At your eye level. Where's your arrow? Down at your mouth.
yeah,
You're off by, well, however distance between your eyes and your corner of your mouth. And that's probably what, 4 inches? So your arrow is leaving 4 inches lower than your pins. At 5 feet, that arrow is not going to hit where your 20-yard pin is. It's going to hit way low. So now then you have to raise it up to get to that point. And that's what a lot of them don't understand when you're shooting it really, really close. That's why when shooting out of a blind, you got to pay attention where the arrow is, not where your pins are at, because
right,
you're going to shoot through your blind.
yeah,
Now, fortunately, some of them have a real long spot, so the shoot through screen. So it doesn't matter where it goes through because it's designed to not really mess with your arrow. It
right,
does, but at normal bow range, you're never going to see it. That's the problem. You go through all this detail, all this analysis. Here's all these things you got to consider. You're shooting at 20 yards or less. Uh, if I shoot 10 yards with my 20-yard pin, I'm off maybe an inch. If you're shooting at a deer and you're off by an inch, who cares? You know,
no, that's
if
minimal.
you're aiming at the top of the heart, you might hit the middle of the heart. Or if you aim at the bottom of the heart, you might just go down below it. So it doesn't matter that much when you're shooting 10 or 20 yards or under. Now you start getting under 10 yards, now you have to start thinking about, how much lower am I going to go, when you're at 5 yards or 3 yards or something like that, 5 yards. But the best way to do that, set up a target at 5 yards and shoot it and see where you're hitting and figure out what pin you have to shoot at 5 yards. Now,
Yeah,
normally you're not going to have a deer closer than 5 yards, but you might. I've shot them at closer than that.
yeah, yeah. I've had a few get pretty close to me. I didn't get a shot at them. I had one come up from behind me, and I was on the ground. She's almost in my pocket, and I couldn't move, so I just kind of sat there. I was like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I could, if I could have done it slow enough, I could have touched her. She was that close, and then
Yeah.
she finally saw me. It was a funny interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been close enough. I actually seen the hair change colors when the arrow went through. So I'm looking at the spot where I'm shooting it, and I seen it turn gray right where the broad hair went through and sliced through the brown hair down to the gray color underneath, and I just seen it change colors, and
Yeah. I the first pig I ever shot, I was turkey hunting, and I was coming back. It was dark, right at dark, and this big sow and some piglets was there, and I was crawling around. I was trying to get to where I could shoot her because the piglets were big enough; they'd be all right. Plus, they're a nuisance down here. We're getting so many of them. Anyways, um, and I swear when I shot that piglet, I could see light through its ears because I hit him in the head, and I was close, way closer than I meant to be for sure. I was after her, and she went around this way and busted me, and this one just kind of froze when they all scattered. So I was like, well, I'll go home with that.
yeah,
It's good eating. So
Yeah. Yeah,
but
they
yeah, I
taste
think
good.
the adrenaline and stuff too kind of just slows it down and where you're focused too.
Yeah. Well, when we get that close with a bow, that's definitely a challenge and getting close.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was the shotgun. I don't think I want to get near that close to a pig with the bow. I've done it once on accident and it wasn't fun. Um, Coal Creek runs right behind here, and it gets a lot of runoff from the city, so it floods real bad. So our banks are just steep. And I was
Yeah.
walking to the stand one morning, and this pig jumped up, and man, I was 4 or 5 feet from it, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I ended up shooting her, and she ran off. And as I was standing there, she was in a nest, but I didn't know that. So I ended up with a bag full of piglets at the bottom of my tree stand that morning.
Oh,
But um, yeah, I don't like to be that close to them for sure.
no,
And then on the way
not with a
out, I
bow.
jumped another one
Oh,
with the nest full of piglets. I got out of there.
yeah. Well,
I'd never actually seen that before. I'd heard people, say they do that, but the little river cane that grows back here, they just ripped it, made a big mound, and that's where she was at underneath that. So with the headlight, I never did see it till she jumped out.
it should have just stayed there. You'd have never even known she was there.
Yeah. No, I probably would have just walked right past till on the way back out. But um,
Yeah.
that was
I guess
fun.
I started walking past one place I was hunting was an old railroad track. So the tracks were gone, but it's a gravel. It was still there. All the tracks and the lumber and everything was all gone. And
Right.
the lady at the farm at the top of the house, she'd walk that track every morning, up and down there. So the deer, kind of used to her walking up and down. And I was out hunting down there and I didn't see anything. On the way out, I'm walking out. And I look over to my right. Here's a doe bedded down, probably 15 feet, 20 feet off the side of the walkway. And it just looked at me and I just kept walking because I knew if I stopped, it'd be gone. And if I
Yeah.
tried to come back, it'd be gone because that's not a normal thing. It's used to seeing her walk up and down there. So it was no big deal me walking up and down there, because
Yeah.
I was just walking normal to get out there. I hadn't seen anything. And, just walked past and you just never know. And I had one time, I seen this deer along the trail. It was a farmer's little road between a couple of fields, and there's road weeds and stuff alongside the road. And I said, I'm gonna see how close I can get to this deer. So I took off my boots. I was just in my socks because the boots always make a lot of extra noise. So I took off
Hmm.
my socks down to my wool socks, and I'm walking up there, and then I'm crawling. So now I'm going up there, and I'm 5 feet away from this deer, and I'm thinking I can't shoot this deer because I can't get my bow in a position where I could draw because I'm basically laying, it's only about a foot high, the grass that I'm behind in weeds, and there's no way I can get even up to my knees and draw because I'd have to basically draw laying down and trying to sit up. So I just sat there for a while until it finally just got up and moseyed off.
Uh, well, I'm definitely not that good yet. I've I've tried to sneak up on them, but I I've not had that much luck yet.
Yeah. The only problem is I put myself in a position, there's no way I could have shot it anyway.
Right. Yeah. If you would have really been after it, it probably wouldn't have worked out near that good.
Now, a crossbow, I could
Oh.
have because, that would have been cocked. I just had to take the safety off, and I could have basically been there and just, picked an opening between the weeds and stuff and be able to get my shot off, or even a trad bow because you can shoot those laying down. They can be any direction, so you could be laying down and shoot one of those, but compound with sights. Yeah, no, because the arrow wouldn't stay on the rest. I'm leaning over.
Yeah.
You pretty much have to hold it unless you have a biscuit. But then, have
That's
you
what I
ever
was about to
shot it
say.
laying over?
That's where the
Yeah,
biscuit would shine.
Yeah. But have you ever shot it laying on the side?
No, yeah.
Yeah. How does that work? Because in the biscuit, instead of laying at the bottom, now it's laying over the side. So now it's changed the position of where it's at a little bit, where the pressure is. So um, I don't know. I've never tried to shoot with the biscuit sideways because I don't think I've ever shot with a biscuit.
I am not a they have a place, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. My son has one on his little bow. That's a good place for it.
Yeah. They don't have to worry about the arrow coming off and stuff like that. And um,
Yeah.
you know, that's the advantage of the biscuit is your arrow's not going to come off. No matter what you do, you can turn any direction, it's not going to come off. It's going to hold it. The disadvantage is you have 100% contact with your fletching.
Yeah.
So if you have a vein that is a little bit messed up, it's going to affect it. And in fact, they will mess up your veins because the veins are normally helical and that arrow is not moving at a helical, not spinning at the point it's going through that rest. It can't start spinning that quick because you
Right.
launched it. By the time it comes off of the string, the fletching's already either at or almost at the biscuit. So now, if they're offset or helical, now then the biscuit's trying to force them back straight. So now then it bends them and it'll eventually, mess up your veins. Um, and then with that 100% contact, you're affecting the arrow flight right to start with.
Yeah.
Now, like I said before, at 20 yards, does it really matter much? No, not really. Um,
No, for a hunting bow, that I mean, they work fine for majority of the people that's going to be out bow hunting. I mean, a lot of the stuff I kind of got into was competition type stuff. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm stuck at the moment. I need to be transitioning over to deer season though. We're almost there. October 1st is when it starts off here.
you got it pretty early. It's ours starts in September 1st.
September.
Is when ours
Yeah.
starts.
Are they still in velvet?
No, normally I don't see them in velvet, but I don't normally go out real early, um, just because it's way too hot still here in Nebraska in September.
Yeah. It the last several years it stays hot here till mid-November, so it's not real fun. But I butcher most of them here myself, so I'll hunt in the mornings usually during the summer and kind of skip evening hunts.
Yeah, it's quite warm in the evenings, and we're a little bit north of you, where it still gets kind of well, you got mosquitoes to worry about, and flies, and then if you can't recover it right away, it may not be any good in the morning because it never got cool enough to keep it in good shape. So, yeah,
Yeah.
summertime, yeah, it's pretty much morning hunts, just because it's just so hot and you don't have recovery time. Where during daytime, at least you can see it. You
Yeah.
can give it that hour or two, and it's not going to hurt the meat or anything. Last thing you want to do is kill a deer and then not be able to recover it quick enough and have a meat spoil.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
all you've done is coyote food then, and it
Yeah.
costs you a tag.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, and we've got a good coyote population around here. Um, s- since a lot of the fur stuff has kind of went away, a lot of the coyotes and bobcats and stuff, we're getting a lot more of them that it becomes a nuisance after a while for in
yeah.
a lot of different aspects.
Well, and when the fur trade goes down, then the population is going to go up, and
Mhm.
eventually, nobody's getting them because the fur the value of the pelts are so low, and then eventually going to start going back up, and then they're going to get them coming in, and um, then they're going to raise the bounty on them, and once it becomes a nuisance, they're going to have to raise the bounty because are we going to go through all that work and not even recover costs?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not like
My
we're eating the meat, so it's
right.
just reducing the herd, and the only value on it is the hide. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I grew up in the fur house. My grandpa, uh, before he died, was the oldest buying a fur buyer in Oklahoma. It bought for the longest time. They sent him a plaque and all that. But so I got to enjoy the fur house quite a lot growing up. Growing up, I mean, it was like 23 coons, I think it was the limit. And a few years ago, they just took the limit off because overpopulation, and you get distemper and a lot of disease in them that can carry over into your household animals and livestock. That's something a lot of people don't think about with fur. It's got a lot of negative about it, and the people that are doing it right, kind of like deer hunting, we're doing it to be as cruelty free and just get it done as possible. We're not out here to enjoy hurting animals or anything. God put them here for us to use and to harvest and to do our part with them. And keeping their numbers in check is part of that. Um,
right?
just out of disease, if nothing else. All the coons start dying from these diseases. It gets into your other animals. Well, what's the solution then? Are you going to go out and try to give every coon a shot? No, that's not that's not feasible.
No,
So there's a balance to everything, and finding it and trying to keep its fine line with everybody's opinions. But um, it the world's getting interesting, I suppose. Is a good
yeah,
way to say it.
yeah, yeah. I
But
guess that's kind of the more polite way of saying
yeah,
some of these wackos need to just go away. They don't have a sense of
yeah.
what's going on.
My grandpa used to get a note every year from a guy in New York, kind of berating him about buying fur and all that. And a few years before he died, I finally asked him, "Is hey, have you got a note from that guy in a while?" And he kind of smirked and he said, "No, maybe I should send him one and see how he's doing." So it kind of like him, you just got to let a lot of these crazy people with their uninformed opinions just roll off your back. You
Yeah.
know, they don't want to learn. That's on them. So
Well, it's like you put out a YouTube video and somebody starts commenting about all this, and I had one guy do that. It's like, oh, thanks for promoting my video. Like, huh?
yeah. Well,
You
thanks
just
for your
don't care
time. You,
what
at
you
least
say.
you
You
watched
could,
part of it.
yeah, you just don't care what you say. You could just say comment. That could be anything you put in there promotes the video.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, pro or con, I don't care. I just, those that don't like what I'm doing, it's like, you know what? Thanks for promoting my video.
Yeah.
What other things you got to say? Just carrying a conversation with them. Next thing you know,
Yeah.
your video is going to be recommended to everybody.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, the way the algorithm and all that, yeah, my tongue quit. How that works is kind of crazy. It's above my pay grade, I'm afraid. But
Yeah,
I know,
well,
yeah, any
sometimes you can't figure it
interaction is
out, but
good. Yeah.
yeah, they like it when you do a like and subscribe and comment and all that. They like videos that keep you engaged. So the more engaging you are on them, so all the people that don't like what we're doing, come comment, comment. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Well,
Now, now if you
I'll
start
talk to
getting
anybody
sassy and
about just
vulgar,
about
I might.
everything.
Yeah. Now if you start getting vulgar or something, yeah, then I might ban you from it and delete your comment because, you know, I do mine that are well, not politically correct, but I do mine such that anybody could watch them.
Right.
So I generally don't have any, bad language in them. Um, One may slip through once in a while, but I
Mhm.
generally, as I'm editing my videos now on this podcast, what you say goes out.
Yeah.
I don't edit podcasts. I edit my YouTube videos because I've always got stuff to take out, and sometimes I'll just cut that out and I'll just you know delete the voice on there. I'll just take the voice down so you can't hear it, and
Yeah.
then did go on. But if I have something that says something that I really don't want out there because I don't want, this, anything, you know, it's not made for kids, like these podcasts aren't made for kids, but I try to keep them so that, kids can watch them and, you know, if they don't like us talking about killing, they're probably not going to watch an archery podcast anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So, my wife just left me a note. She's going up to the little town outside here because I'm in a little village of about 160 people. So we have
Oh,
no stores here. We have a
yeah.
post office, we have a church, and we have a couple trucking companies and a construction company, does, basically house repairs and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Hmm.
But at
So
least
you
I have a
have,
post office open 2 hours a day, 6 days a week.
oh goodness. Where are you at?
In Ithaca, in Nebraska. It's in between Omaha and Lincoln, basically.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah,
it's a little village.
out away from everybody.
Yeah, we're
That
far
has
enough
its
away that
ups and downs.
yeah, yeah, definitely ups and downs depending on what you're doing, but it's a fairly safe town. You don't have to worry about, people stealing stuff and everybody kind of watches too. So,
Yeah.
somebody's driving through that not normally here, we'll probably stop and say, I can help you find something because a lot of times they're looking for something that, you know, they don't know where it's at because, it's just not here. I had
Right.
one guy come through and he's a railroad enthusiast, and there used to be tracks run through here. And he was asking about that because he's trying to find some information. I said, well, that's where they used to run. In fact, there's an old train car sitting there in the one guy's yard. But
Yeah.
there's the used to be a train come through here and they did a lot of stuff with it. And other than that, you can't go through here. There's no place to go through here. One paved road in, and there is two gravel roads out. And if we've had a lot of rain, you're not getting out the one because it floods over because it goes down close to the creek. And if the creek's up very far, it's going to be over there. And the other way out's, gravel road clear up to, um, a little bigger town. Wahoo is the next biggest town around here. And that's a gravel road going out there. So there's only one paved road in. It's only about a mile long.
Hmm.
Until you get into the village, and then um, it's basically they put oil down and gravel on it, and then
Hmm.
oil and gravel, and that's what our roads are here. So it's
They do that a lot out here.
yeah. Well, it's cheap. It don't give you any kind of a base for anything, but
No.
over the years it builds up. So now it's the middle of the road's higher than the gutters.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah,
only way you can fix it is grind it down.
they get to where they don't want to do it at all unless you call them and harass them, and then they'll come and like do right in front of your house to
Oh,
calm the dust down, and that's about it.
yeah.
But
No, we don't have much around here that it's got it looks like blacktop, but it's not because it's been oiled and, basically tar and feathered.
yeah,
This is kind of
that's a good explanation.
yeah, tar and feathered. So yeah, it's nice being in a little small town. You don't have to worry about, too much going on because, there's no destination here. There used to be a restaurant when she was alive. She had a restaurant and people would drive from all over to go to a restaurant. But that building's not even there anymore. So
No,
it's just a field.
yeah.
So yeah, no reason to really come to this town unless you're trying to come visit one of us. And
So how far is it to the nearest bigger town? Like,
it's about 30, 40 miles.
okay, so not real bad.
Same distance to Omaha as it is to Lincoln.
Yeah.
And we go to Fremont. We're right in the center of all three of them. So it's not too far.
Yeah.
I go into Omaha quite a bit, but pretty much anytime you go to town, it's 100 miles.
Yeah, that's I'm not a real big fan of driving. I've had to kind of get over it some going to these competitions and stuff, but after about 2 hours, I'm done.
Oh, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Oh, one time I was going down to an event down in Florida, down by Miami, and it was like 26-hour drive. I drove it down. Well, a couple reasons. One, I couldn't take my favorite toys with me going
Yeah,
on a plane.
they get
But more
grumpy.
importantly, my uncle, which was 99 at the time, lived in the northern part of Florida, and a buddy of mine from the Air Force lived in New Orleans. Well, I'm not going to take a plane to Miami, then fly a plane up to the northern part of Miami, then fly over to New Orleans, and then fly back. And like, yeah, I'm not doing that much flying.
Yeah,
Um, because then I'm stuck. Okay, now then I gotta either have them take me to the airport or I gotta rent a car while I'm there and drop it off and then go rent another car. And then, yeah, that was just much easier to drive. And then I go I spend about a day and a half with my uncle and then about a day and a half with a friend of mine down in New Orleans. And, I hadn't seen him in a while and he's from New Orleans and I've been down there a few times, you know, seeing the sights from a person that lived there. So you get to go see the good sights.
yeah,
Went down there one year for Mardi Gras, and he took me off some of the back roads. Not on Bourbon Street. We went to Bourbon Street the first time I was there, and after that, we never went back until a girl I used to work with in the Air Force. She's actually from Nebraska as well. She had never been out, so we took down to Bourbon Street that time. But other than that, we never went. We never went there again because there's too many other things to go see other than this tourist destination. I want to go see the real stuff. Go have the real food.
yeah. There's that's on one of the list of things I don't ever want to do is go down there on Bourbon Street during all that. No, no, thank you. I like people, but I don't like a lot of people at once.
Yeah. Well, and
Uh,
when we went to the Mardi Gras parade, they took us to on some of the back roads that they weren't very crowded because that wasn't the main place to go view the parade.
right.
There's people along the route all the way, and so we was able to go back there and go to some of the places like that. And I did it one time. After that, we never really went did that touristy stuff. We'd go out and one year I was down there and his girlfriend at the time, her brother and dad went out shrimping. And the first time I realized shrimp had a flavor to it. By the time you get up here, there's not really a lot of flavor to shrimp. And they got a bunch of little ones and had a big old pile of them down there. And oh man, them are good.
Yeah.
And then I'd have um, crawfish sandwiches.
Mm.
We call them crawdads up here, but it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I'm actually going to work on getting this pond over here reestablished to try to raise some next year. Some crawdads here. So I like them. I like spicy food and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll get down on them.
Well, my one time when I had my store, we used to get crawdads in all the time, and sometimes we get some really big ones. And one of the kids that worked for me, he wanted to make some Alfredo with some crawdads in it instead of shrimp, whatever. And I says, I'll tell you what, you take whatever you need, just bring me some in to try it. And so he fixed them up and brought them in. And it's like it was good.
Yeah.
He didn't have to buy the crawdads because I was like, here, take them, just bring me some of it. I just want to taste it.
Yeah.
So he brought in some for me to eat, and like, oh, that was good.
My I don't remember where it is, but my buddy that I taught him how to trap and stuff there when I lived in Broken Arrow, and he started trapping some beavers in this area where they flood it for ducks and stuff. I forget what to call them. But anyways, and he was talking to the warden one day. He put him over there, and he's talking about all the crawdads are in there. So we bought a couple of cheap traps off Amazon, and they man, they had crawdad boils for like a month straight every weekend. So there, you can catch them all over the place. They're good. A lot of people are kind of funny about stuff. I don't know.
There's a
I'll
couple of
eat.
restaurants I go to that have them on their menu. Like the buffets, they'll have them out there, and sometimes I eat them, sometimes I don't, just because you know it's a little more work, and then by the time I get to everything else, it's like do I really want to go through that much work? And sometimes I have, crab legs and stuff, and those if you break them right, they just pull right out. And so sometimes I eat them, and sometimes it's like,
Yeah. It's more of an event than a meal. I mean, if
yeah,
you need to do a bunch and just get a bunch of people together.
the little pieces of corn and all the other stuff they put in there, and and then eat them up. And of course, you got to soak them, get all the dirt and junk out of them. But
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
had some kids one time bring some in, because I had the bait vendors tag, so I can go out and get them. But they brought them in, and it's like, after the first batch, it's like, no, too muddy. My tanks was just I had to change the water too many times,
I
and
don't know what that was. Sorry.
yeah. Well, we're getting kind of close to our time here. Um,
Okay.
what would you like to say in closing to our listeners and watchers?
Um, just if anybody's hesitant about getting out and shooting, just do it. Get a hold of somebody. I mean, you probably know a friend or someone that shoots. Most of us are willing and happy to teach and happy to have somebody to shoot with. So if you're interested in archery or anything else, call somebody. I mean, it's
Yeah,
fun. It'll definitely keep you entertained.
yeah,
And
and there might be a club that teaches you real close. Then there's the NAPS Natural Archery in Schools program. For the
Mhm.
younger kids, get them in, and that's a good program. For your kids to get into, gives them something to do besides you know playing archery on the video games. Actually,
Yeah.
shoot real bows.
Well, and if they are against hunting for whatever reason, I mean, you've got the target aspect of it, and if nothing else, learning the mental game of archery can help you in other places in life. I mean, being able to calm your mind and make good decisions and focus on what you have to do in the situation. I mean, it can turn into a life skill as well, I think.
Yeah.
So
Well, and just because you shoot a bow doesn't mean you have to hunt.
that's
You can hunt. You can just shoot 3D targets. You can shoot paper targets indoors, outdoors, or you can just grab yourself a box and shoot in your backyard because you just like shooting a box.
yeah.
Um, there's all kinds of things you can do. There's a lot of games you can play. They actually
Yeah.
got targets that look like a dart board you can shoot at. They have tic-tac-toe targets you can shoot at, play games. They have targets with cards on them, so you can play cards. Uh, there's a couple other ones I'm drawing a blank what they are, but tic-tac-toe is kind of fun. You got 5 arrows, you need three in a row. So
Yeah.
if you shoot, you're going to shoot your 5 arrows and see who gets what. Now, if you shoot a target and you don't hit dead center, the other person can shoot if they get closer to center, it's their square.
Oh,
So it's not just because you have an arrow in the square, it's whoever's closest to the center wins that square. So, somebody's got three in a row and you take it away from them. Now they don't have three in a row.
yeah.
But you got 5 arrows to do it in. So, that's kind of a fun game to play.
Yeah.
And and then one of the things we used to do sometimes we take a shop vac with the port that goes up, put a ping pong ball in that airstream, and then bounce up
Uh,
and down. And you'd shoot at that ping pong ball, see who hits the ping pong ball. Because it's
yeah.
moving up and down, which doesn't lead to proper shooting technique. But
No, but at
because you're
least
trying
it's
to,
some fun.
yeah, you're trying to time it, but you can still use that proper technique and do there and then time it and then okay, start your shooting and then go. And so there's all kinds of games and just just getting together in a group. Some of the tournaments are more about having fun than it is, getting score and just
That's what
talking to
it's
other archers.
primarily about for I think for most of us. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
few that want to go pro or are pro, but um, yeah, most of us are just out there to have a good time and get away from the week. So
Well, and if you're pro, you have to go to the tournaments because you need the money
yeah,
because that's your job.
right,
Semi-pro, it's not really job all the time, but then you have your other classes where you're just out there. Yeah. Do you want to win? Oh yeah, you want to win. But you're out there to have fun. And if you don't win, it's not like it's hurting your pocketbook. Other than the fact that you had to pay to go to the event and
right.
maybe some hotels and stuff like that. But You go on vacation, you're going to spend for motels, everything else. Why not go on a vacation, do something you enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely. And meet new people. I mean,
Yeah.
I've met very, I don't think I've met anybody that was really disrespectful or not fun to be around. You, we all get a little grumpy on the line, but it, as far as actually talking to people, I've not met a bad person out yet. So we're all generally pretty happy to talk and to share information and just gotta let us know.
Yeah.
And go on to tournaments like the ASA tournaments. We're so far apart away from these tournaments. Well, sharing rides and stuff could be a way to, find a new friend, get to go to more tournaments and stuff. So it's just don't be shy. There's people today have a hard time talking to each other outside of a screen, and I don't understand it. I
Yeah.
I'll drive up to someone's house and knock on their door for directions. Still, I don't care. It got to quit being scared of each other. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. After all, what's a stranger? A friend you haven't met yet.
Exactly. It depends on how they look. I mean, you can sometimes say, well, maybe not that person, but
Yeah, but you can't
and
always judge them, by what they
yeah,
look like.
that's right. That's fair. I probably misspoke there. I've come across a few people that I thought, nah, maybe not, and they ended up being really good people. But just use your best judgment, I
Yeah.
suppose. I
Oh,
don't know
there's for
how
a
to
while.
stop
I
that
had
one.
long hair, down below my shoulders and a big full beard, and
Oh, I was like that till just a few weeks ago. Hair down and long beard. So I got prettied up.
well,
No,
I gotta
it
let you
got too
go
hot.
here. It's been really great talking with you. I've got
To you.
another call I need to get on here in
Yep, for
about
sure.
10 minutes, and I got another podcast. Today's a busy day for podcasts. I got
Yeah,
4 of them scheduled today.
that's good. You
Back
got a
to
lot to
back to
talk.
back, and
Yeah.
it's fun. I like doing it. This gives a platform for us to talk archery and then get it out, and because it goes out all over. I post it in my Facebook group. I upload it to there. It goes out to my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix Yourself. I'm also videos are also going out to archtalk101.com. I'm just building that site. So there's not really much out there right now, just basically the podcast. I haven't had a chance to do much else on that. And then it goes out to wherever you listen to your podcast. So it's audible.com, and you can get them wherever you want. And if you have any questions or anything, join the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, and we'll answer your question the best we can. If you're having a question with your form, take a video on your phone and upload it to the group and tell us what's going on, and we'll look at it and take a look. I can always download the video and edit, go through my video editor, where I can go frame by frame, and I can make comments and send it back to you or whatever, and just take a look. And if you have a question, ask it. There's no dumb question. The only one that's dumb is one you haven't asked yet. So if you have a question, I'll guarantee somebody else got the same question. So just go out there and make sure you join the group. If you haven't joined the group yet, go ahead and join the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, and we'll see you then. And thanks for watching and listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. And thanks, Brandon, for being on the show. It's
Yeah,
been
thank you.
enjoyable. We got all kinds of stuff we talked about this time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm random, so
Oh,
I'll be on
that's
three
quite all
different
right.
conversations.
We've been on some, started talking archery, for a few minutes and then never hit it since. We talk about all kinds of different things on here, from guns and reloading and martial arts and everything else. We
Yep.
just I just start with archery, and where it goes, we goes. We don't care.
All right.
All right.
Sounds
Thanks for
good.
being on, and we'll
Yeah.
catch you on the next one.
All righty. Bye bye.
Bye.